Hey, what's up? This is Omega Agent 661, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the Zero Tolerance 0460. Shoo! Let's get to it! The Zero Tolerance 0460CF is a EDC flipper style folding knife that is made proudly right here in the USA. Gold marker! Its overall open length is 7.5 inches, and its remarkably sexy blade is 3.25 inches of premium CPM S35VN steel and has a high flat grind. The handle is composed of genuine carbon fiber and titanium, and it just oozes sophisticated elegance. Designed to everyday carry, it weighs a mere 2.3 ounces. Let's break down the design in more detail now. This knife is a Dmitry Sinkovich design, and as with most Sinkovich designs, it is quite a looker with some elegant design details. Let's start off with the blade. Blade HQ describes the blade as slightly upswept, and when I first read that, I was surprised. No way, I thought. The blade just looked way too swoopy, and its trailing point tip was obvious to me. But then I looked a little closer and a little harder, and I saw that Dmitry had fooled me again. In my review of the Kershaw Atmos, I mentioned that knife blade almost seemed like a trailing point, when in actuality it was a drop point, and it just had a nice belly and overall design that kind of accented the curves in the knife. So it had fooled me, thinking maybe I was a trailing tip. And I was wrong on that knife. So when this one said slightly upset, it looked a lot more swept up. The blade on the 0460 was very similar to the Atmos, but actually does have that trailing tip design. The blade edge on the knife swoops up, kind of like a fillet knife. And then the handle kind of flares up in the middle, arching up and then down to give the blade a dramatic, curvy, wavy shape that tricks the eye into thinking the blade has way more of a trailing point than it actually does. I think this is a really smart design, as the trailing point blade is arguably more limited than a drop point blade in most situations, but the way this trailing point blade is kind of slightly upswept makes it much more useful overall, while also still packing that stylish flair that trailing points have. Moving on from the blade shape, the blade is etched with the ZT logo on one side, and the opposite side is laser etched with the model number, KAI logo, USA designation, like I said, gold marker, name of designer, serial number, and type of steel. Sheesh, that's a lot of info to etch on one side of a knife blade, especially a kind of smallish, slim knife like we have here. Thankfully, ZT arranged the etchings into an offset ladder pattern that made all those etchings easier on the eyes, and then they also moved the steel type etching closer to the pivot of the blade and printed it at an angle that kind of matches that section of the handle. So it kind of works, but it's a lot of stuff to have stamped on a blade. But then again, that's why you buy the knife, right? Going back to the knife, the high flat ground knife has a beautiful two-tone finish, satin on the grind and stonewash on the flats. And I have to say, overall, I love it. Let me wipe the drool off my mouth and move on to the handle. There are a few different options of this knife available, but this particular knife handle is composed of genuine carbon fiber and titanium. The carbon fiber on this knife is a bronze color and is very smooth to the touch. The edges are beveled, and the bottom rear portion of the carbon fiber has a much tighter weave pattern than the top, and is textured with a pattern of slashing lines that expand as they run the length of the handle. That radiating slashing line pattern is duplicated on the titanium side of the knife handle and is much nicer looking, as it doesn't have to contend with the carbon fiber weave muddying up the design. The titanium side is nicely stonewashed, and other than the pattern on the lower portion, it is very smooth. It has a black tip up single position pocket clip that is also laser etched, and the custom black pivot cap that is hexagonal on the titanium side. The hardware is black with the matching black anodized aluminum spacer in the rear quarter half of the handle. The overall shape of the handle has a deep curve for great ergonomics that follows the curve of the blade, but it is kind of thin. Overall, the design is classy and sophisticated and would work just fine for a formal occasion. To be honest, the knife looks a little too classy to take fishing and camping. Now let's take a look at the locking mechanism. The locking mechanism on the Zero Tolerance 0460 is a classic frame lock design that utilizes a hardened steel lock bar insert to secure the knife during use. I guess titanium doesn't cut it to work as a lock bar? Anyway, the lock bar has a ground out section to place your finger on while opening the blade. Occasionally, I had issues deploying the blade because I would squeeze the wrong portion of the frame lock or squeeze it too tight. I also managed to get the knife stuck in the open position during testing, which was disappointing. Before we go to the next section, let's do a quick size comparison. Alright, now it's time to do a size comparison with the Zero Tolerance Silky 0460. Before we get to that though, let's measure it real quick. So it's around 7¼ inches overall. With the blade, looks like about 3¼ ish, maybe a little more. Try to tell how it upswings. Meant to be an everyday carry, almost gentleman's knife, but I can see people using it for hiking or fishing or pretty much anything, you know, where you need an EDC knife for. So let's start off with its little brother that's also single fish design, Kershaw Atmos. And this one hit the tripod. It opens actually a lot smoother. There we go. And as you can see, the Atmos is smaller, but it's distinctive with that single fish design handle with the point here and point here. Drop point versus trailing point, but nice size, pretty similar size. Let's try it next with a big knife. I just like opening this bad boy. SOCOM Elite Dwarfsome. Alright, enough with the messing around. Let's do another EDC size knife that you might see commonly out and about. The Kershaw Blur, which is actually my favorite knife. This is a M4 edition of the Kershaw Blur Sprint Run. Great knife, as you can see. Looks like it's just made to be a more of a heavy duty work knife. Thicker handle, thicker blade, more slim and elegant. And last, let's give it up and next to a Spyderco Pacific Assault 2. Oh, move this around. Oh yeah, I always get surprised how big this Assault 2 is. It's ginormous. And there you have it, size comparison for the Zero Tolerance Silky 0460. I wish it had real names. It's hard to remember those numbers. So how has the 0460 performed? Well, the knife opens silky smooth thanks to the KVT ball bearings and is a joy to use for most tasks. It excelled at kitchen prep, and its trailing tip design was purpose built for trimming tri-tip steaks. It was just made for that kind of work. It also does a really good job filleting fish, despite not having the flexibility you're probably used to in a fillet knife. I mean, in a pinch, it's going to do a pretty good job if you happen to be out and about and catch something that needs filleting. Anyways, I had no issues slicing and dicing veggies, and it cut through the usual assortment of paracord, twine, and nylon like it was a lightsaber. Made me feel like a Jedi. After making quick work of the rope assortment, the blade was still exceptionally sharp and could slice paper thinly and cut through a free hanging bungee cord with ease. When it came to piercing and slashing tasks though, the design did limit its performance. I was not able to stab accurately due to the upswept tip, and I was unable to pierce deeply into objects on knife thrust. Also, Despite the sharpness of the blade, I was not able to slice water bottles in half cleanly, and I failed miserably at slicing through uh, all three water bottles in the three water bottle slash test. So it just isn't made for that kind of hack and slash. This is more of a sleek finesse knife, but overall, with real world use, I was very happy with this performance. This is my first zero tolerance knife, and I have to say the reputation was very well deserved. The grinds on this knife are fantastic. The centering is spot on, and the machine surfaces look great. I mean, it's beautiful. It just, I get lost staring at it and moving it back and forth to see how the light shines off the stonewash and satin finish. Just really, really beautiful. Nothing has gotten loose, and the blade didn't take any damage during testing. Even the new wire cut attempt did not phase this blade. Like I said, the finish on this knife is impeccable, and despite tossing it around during testing, it doesn't have any scratches or damage at all. I love how, even though the knife is so slim, it still has a swedge and still kind of has that diamond like grind heading up towards the tip, and then the tip is pointy, doesn't lean off to one side or not. It really is a really great quality on that knife. So great job, zero tolerance. I'm impressed. Now it's time to talk value. Value is a very subjective category. In the end, when I think about value, I like to ask myself, do I feel like I got my money's worth? I'm not rich, far from it. So how do I feel after spending around $175 all in for this bad boy? I mean, that's a lot of money for a knife, especially when you're living paycheck to paycheck or you got bills or kids. So, do I feel like I got my money's worth? Honestly, I feel like I got a great deal. The knife is loaded with premium features and made with great materials. You get titanium, you get carbon fiber, you get the premium steel, you get the Silky design. I mean, come on, that design is fantastic. And it comes with a lifetime warranty and free sharpening. On top of all of that, this knife also has the exclusivity card to play. Ooh, you're not going to be able to say that word. Muy chingon. Anyways, what I mean by that exclusivity card is that this knife has been discontinued. So you can get it at a pretty great price if you can find it. And then after that, it's a collector's item. You're not going to be able to get it anymore. It's discontinued. I'll post a link to what Blade HQ has in stock right now in the description, and maybe you can get lucky and snag one. Like I said, it comes in different variations, so who knows. So now we move on to my knife review rating score. For any new crash coursers, this rating system is something I came up with to help me quantify and rate my knife collection, and it goes over a lot of different categories such as blade steel, design, performance, etc. It's not perfect, but I do me. You guys could do you. Anyways, let's get to it. The first category is blade steel. This blade uses CPM S35VN, which is considered a great high-end or premium knife steel. It's basically kind of like an upgraded version of CPM S30V, and in my experience with S30V, the S30V has been fantastic. One of my favorite knives, the Benchmade Bushcrafter, is made of S30V, and it's great. So this still seems like it's going to be just as good or even better. Despite all the testing and hard use I put this knife through, the steel has not damaged at all and has kept the ultra sharp edge. I don't think I've even had to touch it up with the ceramic rod yet. This knife earns an 8 out of 10. Next up is handles or scales. The handle material on this knife are ultra premium and consists of carbon fiber and titanium, and has a great ergonomic handle that feels great in the hand. Well, at least in my hands. That being said, the knife is very smooth and on the thin side. Surprisingly, the smoothness of the scales didn't give me any issues during testing at all, but the thinness of the handle was a problem during some of the slashing tests. It had a tendency to twist in my hand upon impact, and that led to its poor performance when attempting to hack and slash and chop through the water bottles. Other than that, I fell in love with this knife's ergonomics, the luxurious feel of the knife in the hand, and the premium design touches. So in the end, I give it a score of 9 out of 10. The next category is value. I got a great deal on this knife, but it was still a very pricey purchase, so I have mixed feelings on the value score of this knife. This knife performed extremely well in some tests and was only adequate in others, but it just looks so lovely and has a lifetime warranty, and it has that certain quality the French like to say, a certain,
I don't know what.
either way, I gave it a 6 out of 10. The next category grants up to 5 extra points for build quality, coating, or paint in hardware. The build quality of this knife is great. You guys heard me gushing about it just a little while ago. And I see that the fabled reputation of zero tolerance knives is not a lie. The two-tone stonewash finish is elegant, and all the materials are ultra premium. I feel like I'm saying ultra a lot, but really, I don't even know another way to describe it. Anyways, the knife flips open in such an effortless, silky motion that sometimes it's surprising. If you're only used to handling like assisted opening spring knives, those ones have a tendency to kind of like launch or rattle into place. This knife is just like a silky smooth, like, oh wow, it opened. Like, it's amazing. The design elements are consistent and they mesh well. It's just a consistent and beautiful knife, all the way down to the black painted hardware. I gave this knife 4 out of 5 possible extra points for this category. Next up is performance. So I never go into the individual slicing, chopping, piercing, and slashing extra points. I never do. Those of you who watch all 10 of my subscribers, you guys know. Anyways, overall, this knife performed extremely well at a lot of tasks that I do on a regular basis. Like I said, it wasn't the best at piercing and definitely not the best at chopping. But one look at this slim, swoopy knife could have told you that. Either way, the knife edge is sharp and has held remarkably well. And despite using it for cutting lemons and getting it wet while gutting and filleting fish, it hasn't stained at all. I mean, no rust concerns at all. I do have an issue. One of my big issues, and really one of my only issues with the knife, is when it got stuck in the open position. You know, that occurred while I was trying to slash through water bottles in a test that this knife is clearly not designed for. That issue aside, I enjoy using this knife, and so for this category, I give it a 6 out of 10. The next category is pocket presence. The 0460 is extremely light and thin. It slips into the pocket like a ghost passes through a wall, and it doesn't take up much pocket space. The pocket clip does a good job holding the knife in place without chewing up my jeans, but it is limited to only right hand tip up carry, which, causes it to lose a point. I know for some people that could be a deal breaker. This was one instance where the design overran the function on this blade. Multiple carry options might have been more functional, but usually look pretty ugly. It'll have kind of like a divot and screw holes, and I think they just wanted to keep this knife looking pretty. But like I said, that does limit the functionality. Honestly though, with knives and knife carry, I'm a traditionalist. I get the knife, I carry it however it comes packaged. I feel like that's the way they wanted you to carry it. That's how I carry it. So it's not a big deal to me. In the end, I give it a 4 out of 5. Finally, we come up to our last category, extra points. This category grants up to 5 points based on subjective style, special features, and design. The Zero Tolerance Sinkovich 0460CF is a beautiful, well-designed knife that looks like it's more at home in a three-piece suit than on a campground. Don't let that fool you though, because this knife didn't mind getting all dirty and slimy and was a great camp kitchen knife. The premium materials and ergonomics make this knife feel like it's worth the money you spend, and it has cool, stylish design features that you expect from a Sinkovich design. I have to admit, I'm beginning to become a huge Sinkovich fan, and I just love everything about this knife. I awarded it 5 extra points out of 5. So let's total it all up. And this knife scores a grand total of 50 out of a possible high score of 75. All right, that's a great score, but it surprisingly didn't outscore its budget little brother, the Kershaw Atmos. That is weird. I'm thinking the drop point blade and budget pricing probably made the Atmos come out on top of my knife review score. Still, this knife is a top 10 knife in my collection, and if you remember, 5 of my knives have the same score, so they're all tied at second place. So it's more like a top 5 knife when you look at it that way. So, to sum things up, I think Zero Tolerance did a fantastic job bringing premium glory and justice to the Sinkovich design. In my opinion, the design is fantastic, and all the extra little details make knife nerds like me squeal with delight. The overall build quality feels great, and its performance was really good. I mean, really, really good. The premium materials were luxurious, and I think I got a steal of a deal on the price. If you're in a position to scoop one of these up for a good price, I say do it. It'll make a fantastic knife for your collection. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Survival Crash Course. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, it's Omega Agent 661 signing out.